It's Tuesday, and this is Trekland HQ. Yep. And you can tell by the dust. And we are live. Whew. 50 years for me. But what about 2025 for you, Star Trek? Yeah. Enigmatic? No, not really. Today on episode 283 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemechek, coming at you as always here from the heart of Trekland through Portal 47 and Trekland Treks and all of those things. Hey, we're starting off a brand new shiny 2025. You can take a Trekland Trek with me. Check it out at treklandtreks.com or larrynemechek.com. 4 of your favorite location sites that you arrange with my help and that you visit with my concierging. Yes, all of that for another dab here of some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek, or in a lot of Star Trek anyway, here in the bright, shiny new year of 2025. For a lot of the country, it's a snowpack, or you're digging out of it. Today, we're having high winds and fires up around, a lot of SoCal and from LA and the Basin, Orange County over to the Inland Empire. And now it's dry tinder with huge wind. I mean, like 100-mile-an-hour gusts. It's insane. And there's power lost, and they're worried about fires already breaking out. That said, here we are in Trekland. I'm so glad that you all could join us here from around the world at this time of day. And look, if you are new to Trekland Tuesdays Live, thank you. So glad you could join us here, the first show of the new year. What you got to know, though, is half the show is the community, half the show is the chat. So jump in there, introduce yourself if you're new, let us know where you're coming from. And if you're not new, say hi if it's been a while. If you're a lurker, that's totally okay. You still might want to pop in and say hi, though, occasionally. Yep, the chat is happening. Now, if you're on YouTube, you can take advantage of Super Chat. Yay! And help us out here with a little incidental funding along the way. We're also on Facebook, where you're only going to see the Facebook chats, okay? YouTube and Twitch, you'll see everything. So just to say that, everybody should be over on YouTube and like and subscribe by now, because today's topic is going to be a fun one. And you know what? If you're watching us later on YouTube, welcome to. You can still comment right there below the frame. Keep the conversation going. Hopefully, we're going to push some buttons today, spark a few things, and we'll see what's going on. I've got kind of one of those dual-natured ones because we had a poll in my newsletter. It's not too late to jump in. In fact, I ran the newsletter, has an online page, and you could scroll down and get the poll. The New Year's Eve offer for Portal is gone, by the way. So a couple of people jumped and grabbed it, but the poll is still good. It was still good until now. This poll's question is, what are you looking forward to in 2025 from Star Trek? What are you most looking forward to? Now, I'm going to get to those poll results in a second, but I've got a secondary topic today that I wanted to hit. And for all you newbies, just so you know, we're going to do our topics here, my soapboxes, and then I'll take a mini break and I'll be right back, and then I will dive into the chat. So I'm not diving in and checking out as we go along here. All right, but I thank you. If you want to pop in right now, people are saying their howdies and hellos. That's all cool too. But I will literally back scroll. People will drop the needle. I don't need the help. But it's handy to see where it is. If you feel like jumping back in with your question later on or your comment or whatever, feel free. But here's what I want to get to today. Before we get to the poll results, I realized something about myself just this last weekend. I was a little sad because I feel like I was a little slow on the uptake. No, I, for some reason, was thinking about, as I mentioned last week, talking about the old year and the new year. I go back to learning about it. I remember it was in a lit textbook in junior high about the god Janus. Looking forward and backwards, two-faced, not two-faced as in dishonest, duplicitous, but two-faced as in looking forwards and backwards at the same time. And that's what January is named for. And a little delayed to come to me was the fact that I love to tell the story. I've said it way too many places, but it's still new to some folks, about how I credit, a long story short, my 9th grade science teacher, Mrs. Pollard. She's remarried now since her name is different, but she, after a little discussion with some other people in class, shamed me that I wasn't watching Star Trek after school as a freshman in high school. So it struck me that I was coming up on an anniversary, a personal anniversary of that moment, because within a week I was a Trek fan. Within a couple of weeks I was going down and I bought the making of within a few weeks I didn't know what I was. It took a while for the organized world outside to come to me. I found the Starlog #1 issue on vacation. A year and a half later, a few months later, found the making of Star Trek. But before then, it was just, the tech manual, I think, may have been the first thing I actually bought. But what I'm getting to here is, I don't have an exact date, but I think that moment when I watched Star Trek for real and then watched 3 or 4 or 5 in a row, can't tell you the episode. I can remember one time I saw an episode on a weekend and went, that's that show with the guy with the pointed ears. That space show, yeah. It was sometime in the spring semester because people were familiar enough that we were talking and goofing around at the end of class and it was fine. With the teacher at her desk. But I'm going to say that was in the spring of, can I say it? 1974, which means not this coming year, but I'm looking back and realizing I just celebrated my 50th year as a fan, y'all. I had to say the y'all kind of softens the blow. That's a lot of cycles of Star Trek. A lot of other interests. I have a life. Thank you very much. But wow, it kind of set me back, got me thinking. The first thing I think about is, well, I'm glad to be here, hale and hearty, for one thing. But the biggest thing is just how many cycles of Trek there have been. And I come by this personality naturally. I was always a natural walk the line. If there were 2 factions in school, in theater department, in the journalism department, at work, in the family, even if there were 2 factions, I tended to be one that could kind of walk the middle line, not to be pablum and vanilla, but to be the one who could communicate both ways. And hopefully, if it was something really adverse, bring them together. Sometimes it was just being a communicator. Boy, have I been a middleman in my life for different things. But, and I guess that's partly why communication comes to me. I don't know. It's a long train. I'm not gonna go on the couch here and self-analyze. But communicating and aside from recording ideas, history buff, history nerd, but also making sure that once it's just the bare history, that it doesn't sit there and get dusty on a shelf, that it's articulated and distributed. What's the Smithsonian Institute's motto about for the knowledge and diffusion among men, humans? Diffusion. It's not just to have the stuff, it's to get it out to people. And then the next step, of course, is make it make sense. And brother, there's a lot in the world today that needs to make sense. When you talk about something like Star Trek, that's a good thing. And I just kind of fell into it naturally, I guess. And it's, there's more than one face. There's the interviewing folks and preserving. And then there's the getting in and canon smoothing and dot connecting and all those fun things. And that's the bug that dragged me into kicking and screaming. No, not really. But that's what made me come back time after time. That's what's kept me a fan all these years. All the rest of it too. And of course, in the beginning, you're isolated. And brother, was I isolated. But then eventually found there were 2 or 3 or 4 people, guys at school, that I remember. I guess the technical manual was the first thing. And I remember taking it to school, and Cliff and Mike, I was like, see, I told you, the patches do match the uniform color. I remember saying that. So it was in 4th hour geometry next year. I remember that so clearly. And it wasn't a ha ha ha. It was a ooh, look, see, because I didn't get it that nobody else hadn't noticed that. And we're talking baby days, guys. But I mean, beyond that, though, I guess the thing that's helpful today and now is that it's amazing that we still have this thing called Star Trek. It's amazing that it's not just, oh, look, it's ticking another year off. Yay for it. It's, of course, what it means to the fan base. Paramount's happy for what it's meant to its bottom line. But of all the people, all the fans that Star Trek has meant so much to them, in some cases, life-saving. In some cases, life-saving or life rebounding. In some cases, it's created bonds among family and friends that might not have been there otherwise. In some cases, it's been lasting memories. People talk about their grandparents, their grandma, their grandpa, their uncle, their aunt, their dads, their moms, that they shared Star Trek with at some point, and they're gone now. Or they had no other way to connect with them except their time to sit down and watch Star Trek. Now, see, my case, I had parents, they weren't sci-fi fans. They were understanding and supportive. Dad, a little gruff, distant. My mom kind of indulged me, but with responsibility. And I had a way older brother and a baby brother. I was the middle kid. And I've told this before about how my mom didn't want to get me indulged so much, but I said, oh, here's the tech manual, Mom. This is what I want for Christmas. And I remember her looking at it, and if you've heard me tell this, apologies, but she looked at it at the time in B. Dalton's in the mall and said, oh, Larry, $4.95 for something that doesn't really exist? I don't know. And I was like, okay. Spring break, I had some money. I was staying with my brother at my eventual college town. I can't even believe this existed at the time, a little dinky bookshop at a little dinky mini mall. I went down and bought my own. Thank you very much. And yes, I've teased my mom with that story for years. Teased her over the years. But yeah, we're talking that kind of determination. Had to get a ride down because I didn't have a driver's license yet. Or I had a permit, but not a car anyway. So yeah, those kinds of things. But we know that Star Trek's affected everybody differently. That was my pull. I was kind of like amazed that this whole burning core fandom group, apparently in the early days, the majority core of organized fandom, yeah, the little clubs were popping up and all that, but the driving force, the power, the thing that led to conventions and showing that there was a customer base, right? That the tech manual wound up as 16 weeks as the #1 bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list. That woke people up because now you're talking moolah. And then the convention was a big splash, but you're talking opening eyes. Kids, these things didn't exist then. Geekdom fandom was a thing in the closet, and nobody even kept it in the closet on purpose. That's just where it stayed because no one thought to come out of a closet. So yeah, in the days before the Chambers of Commerce chased the Comic-Cons for the local tourism dollars and the local attention, we've come a long way since then, is my point. And because of different factors, the audience has all these appeals. Obviously, fandoms kept alive. Fan ownership, bang, started with Star Trek. First case of a show brought back to life, a protest campaign. You know, the Monkees fans didn't get the Monkees back on TV. But Star Trek did. And we even did a Trek Files and a memo about when they realized that the Save Star Trek campaign was bigger than the Bring Back the Monkees campaign. Same network, NBC, and they were like, oh, we've got more letters in from Star Trek than we even had of the Monkees. Well, who was in every teeny bopper magazine? The Monkees, not Star Trek. Except that was about the time you did start to see Leonard Nimoy popping up, and even Walter, and yeah, right. That's that's been that. And then, of course, over the years, well, the geeks won. Nobody's even in the closet anymore about their fandom. And of course, everybody else took Star Trek's ball and ran with it, so that when Star Trek was resting, it blew up even bigger. And now Star Trek's like, hey guys, we kind of invented all this. We kind of started media cons. We broke away from the traditional, staid, stately, 500-person lit cons. 5,000 Worldcon people if you were lucky, and that was the apex. More like 2,000 or 3,000 some years. Couldn't believe the scale when I realized what it was. All this to say that and then that begat at first that original cast, and for sure the writers and backstage crew didn't see a penny of things, but that cast were whipsawed. They hit out of nowhere. Hit by a bus in the 70s because they were so stereotyped they couldn't get other work aside from Nimoy and Shatner. And it affected them as well. They had to struggle even. Every cast since then has been a little wary, but more and more and more, it's amazing. It's a godsend because Star Trek is a franchise and we live in a media world that has all this. But sometimes it's good to bring that perspective in. And I guess that's, if there's anything these days, I talk about the pendulum swinging all the time in Star Trek. Well, I guess I missed experiencing I was there. I wasn't breathing that air. I'm really a second generation fan. I wasn't a NBC prime timer, right? Or even a zine world. I didn't buy zines and get into fanfic and all that. I was kind of amazed. I read about those women, mainly women, in Interstats pages, the letters, and me and my 8 other people talking about background and continuity. But they were there. I'd write letters to them, and then I answered letters for the Well Committee. The Well Committee was Star Trek internet before there was an internet. It was stamps and paper internet. And I was a volunteer. First just answered letters, and then I was the library computer volunteer, which meant answered background questions. That was like 10 years. And then the Well Committee went the way of everything that was pre-internet. It served its purpose. Great and glorious. The relics exist. It needs to be preserved and archived. And I think there's things afoot for that. I found my folder of the 8 or so 10 years of questions that I answered because I kept carbon copies. And I'm going to dive into those sometime and see if there's anything fun to make out of them. So, as if I need another project. But that's it. I look back at the 50 years as a fan and see, obviously, the corporate swings, the fandom swings, the fallow times, and the high points, and then the crazy times, thank you, social media, for bonds, and then also to amplify, the loud 10% is what I called them in the 80s that were yelling about Spock dying. And they're not going to go see Wrath of Khan because they're pissed that Spock is dying. And it's quantified in a marketer's real survey. I go back that far. But it's fun to share all that. It's fun to bring that perspective to everybody, the double-edged sword, and stop me if you're a corporate vice president or bean counter at Paramount. The double-edged sword is you've got these people that love a thing so much, they're going to vote with their feet and vote with their dollars. At the same time, they all feel like they own it because you go back to the roots of things and it wouldn't be here without them. But that also means that they love it so much. If they're if they're disappointed, but the spectrum all the way to hurt, leading to anger with what you've done with their baby in your care, the wrath of fans. And, when it gets to an extreme, and it's still got to live with the bounds of civility, but we see what happens. Now, I'm not even talking about when fear and anger get commercialized and we have the whole paid bot and troll thing amplified with the help of social media. Didn't exist before Twitter and Facebook, but there it is now. I'd like to think we're starting to be savvier about all of that overall, and we can put the Star Trek niche of all of that in its place as we look at the whole thing. And, since I've been doing Trekland Tuesdays Live 2017, we've kind of had the aha awareness. This has come roaring up. we've become aware. We're getting a wrangle. Kindergartners, I hope, are learning about algorithms now in social media just to protect themselves and their sanity, their well-being. But I didn't mean to turn this into a what can you say? We all kind of are aware of this. We all come into Star Trek and fandom at different times. Thank God we went into virtual here just in the last half dozen years or so, and it got us through the pandemic. But if there's one thing, I live for details. I live for preserving creatives' intentions and roads not taken, and the drafts, or even the unseen finals that didn't make it to camera, because people are hungry for the stuff, right? Not just your cosplay nerd, not just your shipbuilder or your prop maker. The gamer needs all that. Everybody, especially the tabletop, the role play gamer. Paper and dice gaming, we said before tabletop was a term. That's my term anyway. Yeah. That was always a thing. And then realizing that it wasn't just enough to get it, but to preserve it and then get it out there. And these tools pretty much today are even better than what we did on paper or with cassette tape back in the day. Yeah. So it's weird. I thought, well, I have to say something profound at this moment in time. And I don't know. It's just the only thing profound I would say is, for the most part, it's been a blessing to see so much. I can't say firsthand, because there's a lot I didn't see firsthand. Some things I had to realize 3 or 5 or 10 years later. And the things like knowing that even though the numbers for DS9 and Voyager are tanking because it's split audience and it's not a unified thing and it's on dinky stations and they get thrown late at night, and even UPN is a dinky network, and all of that, knowing in your heart that someday the Trekkie kids watching Janeway are going to be impacted by that. It's a good thing. It was a good PR thing and a good heartfelt Trek thing to do. The first black captain, but then to see the effect, because the paradigm changed. It wasn't everybody watching their cassette tapes, their videotapes, or their DVDs. It was Netflix and the streaming, with all you can say about that. And the streaming power of unlocking that for so many people all at once. The streaming revolution is what brought DS9 and eventually even Voyager their great impact, and redeemed Enterprise in a lot of ways. And enabled another for what the original fifth network was going to be with UPN, what the original dramatic syndication package was, beyond just game shows and talk shows and soap operas, for syndication. Every time there's a new prototype in media, Star Trek has been there. And streaming, CBS All Access was really ahead of the other. Yes, it was clunky in the beginning. Yes, people didn't want to play for Star Trek. But that was the beginnings. Before there was Peacock and ABC Disney Plus and all of that, there was CBS All Access because they had Star Trek, and that's what they led with. And we hate the 10-episode seasons, but then again, 10-episode seasons are what allowed a buffet to come along and not just be invested in the late 24th century, as beloved now as that is, because we got so much of it, of the Picard, Sisko, Janeway era. And it's evolving now. And in 10 or 20, excuse me, guys, I'm really not cracked up. I'm just, or choked up. But, we're going to do nothing but add to the decades. I hope that even the money boys have learned their lesson not to have no Star Trek for 12 years again. Small screen Star Trek. Because as we've seen once again, the movie world is so wacky doodle. These one-off big splash effect budget things are so dependent on the ebbs and flows of politics and administration and all of that. There's nothing mechanical. There's nothing mechanical. Maybe the only thing more that is quasi-mechanical is the James Bond franchise. And even now, right now, they're kind of in a fluffle to get the next one going. Star Wars has sure come and gone and floundered at times, and much less the mighty Marvel. Oh ho ho! Give them 10 years at the top, and now watch them. It happens. It happens. So the small screen is Star Trek's home, its birthplace, and its last best destiny. So looky here, we're all in this together now. It doesn't take decades of hindsight to realize what's going on here now. So yeah, of course we want to watch the shows. We want to soak up the acting and the writing, hopefully, and the details of the universe and all of that. But it doesn't take much to step back and have the meta of what's going on year to year and all that. And you know what? Those years do fly by. Am I right? Just stacking up your DVDs or your Blu-rays now. Just watching those lines pile up on your queues on Paramount Plus. Watching people come back, watching the power and the fun of legacy characters come from the old to the new, and enjoying our creatives, both sides of the camera, as long as we've got them, and treasuring that. And if I may be selfish, squeezing as much as we can out of them to have for the record. And the scary thing is, a lot of them over the years, more and more, get that. I mean, they do in their own lives, but most of them working on the shows know that. And as much as the actors have made peace, because now getting into a Star Trek is amazing. It's cool. I mean, yes, crassly, in an insecure industry like acting, gang, saying, oh, it's a paycheck of some degree, I can do cons my entire life. That's not a shabby, shameful thing to say. That's a pretty smart, savvy thing to say. And in a world that's so, between media changing and formats changing and unions and contracts and management, all the weirdness and work leaving LA to go to other places, will it ever come back? In the uncertainties of an industry like that, anything that you've got in your corner is great. The thing is, people are excited to have their guest spot. People who work all the time, they're working actors, they're thrilled to have a Star Trek in there. And even if they're not a fan, here's the thing that's different. People know not just the value, like the money value, monetary value of Star Trek as a franchise, but they know that Star Trek is a force for good. We're about to see that once more in 10 days. We're about to have, or so. It's time for Trek Talks 4. And I've got a panel at Trek Talks 4 the weekend after next. The marathon all day long Saturday, the 4th edition, annual edition. John Billingsley's creation. John and Bonnie Gordon are going to co-host. It's all for, it's a telethon. It's an old school telethon raising money for the Hollywood Food Coalition, which is a great thing. I'll save that for later. But that's just every little local club, every fan con, every major convention has charity events. I mean, and that's all sci-fi, but Star Trek was one of the pioneers in making sure that was part of it. And it's in the DNA of Paramount, of Star. It's not the DNA of Paramount. It's a part of that. But it's the DNA of Star Trek. And that is why, yes, on top of the association for their own well-being, people are thrilled to be part of Star Trek. So many actors will say it's so good, especially if they do villains. I mean, it started with D being a Western villain. It starts with so many saying, you know what, I'm under makeup, sure, but there's so many where I'm the bad guy and I do this and that. But it's such a thrill, even if I'm playing a bad guy on Star Trek, but I get to touch Star Trek. I get to be in that glow of something that overall is a force for good. And so many times, strong actors who are amazing playing villains and adversaries get countercast. It's like Bill Tice flipping the material in the 60s and showing the backside. And that's the side he used for his alien, tailored suits and things. No, it's those actors that get a chance to play a good guy and show the world. And more so than the actors, it's also directors, writers, all the creatives who spend their lives, and guest stars who spend their lives working, going from show to show to show to show. And they either know up front or they don't, but they know. And if they don't, they learn before retirement. Maybe hopefully after 10, 20, 30 years of their work for Trek, whatever it was and however long it was. They know the one thing they're going to get asked about more than any other. Now, unless they did double duty on Star Wars, unless they did double duty on one of maybe 5 other things out there, franchises, long-running series. No, they know that if they worked on 15 different shows, the one that people are going to ask them about at 50 and 60 and 70 and 80 is Star Trek. And that's a glow. That's a glow for them too. Even if they don't feel like they contributed anything, just to know that they've got that association. Of course, a lot of them in art, visual effects, props, costumes, music, all the majors like that. To know that they've added something to canon and to the universe, it's just cool beans. So that's a long time perspective that's cool to see, and it's cool to see people get that long time perspective. Otherwise, it's just another, having a perspective like that is just a tool in the toolbox of what I try to do right now. And you know what? There's so many great folks out there that there's a few that are, I'm not claiming this alone. There's lots of folks that have a long-term perspective that way. I'm thinking of everybody from, my friends, Mr. Okuda and Mr. Sternbach and Mr. Doctorman and maybe Mr. Ullman by now. So many long-timers, both on and off the payroll of the shows. And a lot of who aren't with us any longer. But, yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to mark that. It's not like it's a survival. It's just and to say that I felt like I should have something more profound to say, and I don't. And I'm going to own that. And maybe as I went through that litany, that laundry list of perspectives, nothing hugely major, nothing for, tombstone worthy. Nothing title of your memoirs worthy. And no, I'm not planning on either one anytime soon. But as always, I'm just happy when I've saved one little thing for posterity, or I've maybe sparked even 1 or 2 new ideas or perspectives in everybody out there. And I hope it's reciprocal. I'm always looking for it to be reciprocal. I always look to see what I can pick up new and stay fresh. God forbid, woe betide, Kalis be damned if we all stagnate and we stick with our blinders on and we just look at the world, much less Star Trek, the way we did, name a decade, when we first came in, because that ain't the way it is today. Remember, compare and contrast is a good thing, but don't be fooled into thinking the world is the same. And sometimes we can't help but be tricked into that. To ask anybody that watched DS9 in the 90s. Yeah. Okay. Part 2 today. I promised this look ahead, the other side of Janus. This was great. This was the New Year's Eve email, ostensibly to say, hey guys, 2 more days to get in on the Portal 47 self-give your gifted Santa leave you off his Trek list. And a couple of people bid on that. But I always have something to give in those, either a link or a photo, or the polls are fun. And it gives me something to talk about on the next Tuesday. Well, this was earlier because it's been out a week. So yeah, I had 4% return on this, which was kind of cool. This is the highest returned poll in ages, I guess, because it had that week to gestate. And I could keep poking back on it with Trigger. So again, I ask everyone, on my email list, and you should be on it if you're not, LarryNemecek.com. I do not overspam people. I don't send enough. But the question was, what are you most looking forward to in 2025 in your Trek? And the nature of the MailChimp that I use, polls are, I have to give answers. There's no place for write-in candidates. So here we go. I had 10 I had 10 options. Some of them are specifics. And where did we do? Just lose it? No, it just refreshed. I had some specifics and a couple I tried to make use of the fact that you couldn't combine. We couldn't say like number 1 and number 4, number 6. So I generically went that way. But basically said, and this time around, because we had a 4% return, which is that's the kind of the minimum you need. Everything drew at least 1 vote. So here you go. And you can expect all the things, the specific projects, and then also just some different things you can do as a fan. You know what? I'm not expecting anything on screen. I'm just going to enjoy toys and merch, or I'm just looking forward to my personal fandom friends, whatever the world gives us officially, yada, yada. So I had 10 of those and a couple that were combinings. I can't pick just one. And then, all of these. I can't pick not just one. So 1.6% tied said the biggest thing they're looking forward to in 2025, 1.6% said new toys and merch. Okay. Not too impressive what's coming on the screen, I guess. And 1.6% said they're looking forward to hearing more about the Origins movie. Yeah. 1.6%. I've done a show about it just in the last month or so. It's going to ramp up. It's going to be in our face. Just to say, I'm hoping somebody with a brain has hacked out a corner of the Star Trek universe. It's not only not fleshed out at all, but that realizes that's a safe place to be for a crew, designers, a team that are not used to TV style continuity. To get in and monkey around, bull in the china shop here. I'm hoping it's something safe and there's enough buffer room that we can retcon our way out of that. Of course, if we're all going to live in a multiverse now with a door right there all bright and shiny, maybe it won't make any difference anyway. But to keep your sanity for a little bit longer, there you go. But that was the lowest getting. Next up from that, though, was 3.1%. And this was people who are the most they're doing this year. They're mostly looking forward to word about the Kelvin 4 film. So there you go. And this is my audience, and this is people motivated to return a poll. That's right there. That's digital. You click one thing. So, okay. So between the two there's almost 5% say they're looking forward to the two new movies. There you go. Not unexpected, I should say, and certainly no surprise to most of y'all. But after that, tied up next is 6.3% who chose, which is a little disappointing, future word on Prodigy Season 3. Now, I know a lot of people are curious about it. It just may not be people's number one, which I think you'll see. And maybe it's combined. But I, again, didn't have any way to be nuanced about that. But for 6% of my list anyway, Prodigy Season 3 was the big thing they're looking forward to. And then next we had another tie, climbing the ladder here. So at 9.4%, came the main thing they're looking forward to. Main thing is the future of Lower Decks. More word about that. And the very low key, just enjoying fandom and cons and meeting other fans and their local club and, just laid back fandom, which you can depend on not to go away. Doesn't depend on anybody else but you and your buds. But that's smart. It's good. Maybe the best mental health tactic in here. Now we jump up to 12.5% was the next faction. And that's the ones that said they're looking the most forward to the Section 31 movie. Well, we've only got about 2 weeks here and we'll know all about that. But there you go. 12.5. More people said they're most looking forward to the Section 31 movie than a future of Prodigy or future of Lower Decks, which was interesting. But again, Not taking away a lot of people may be in the combo world. I'll show you. Then we had it 14% said, no, all of these. So take a fraction in that, do an overlay for all these other things. 15.1% said, 15.6% said, well, not just one, but more than one. So I let people say it's either the one specific or everything. I let people say, well, 2 or 3 of these. I do not care about the new movies, or I don't care about Section 31. Without getting into detail, I let that handle that. And there you go. That was 15% said that. But are you keeping score at home? Are you keeping score at home? The overwhelming here of the fraction was 26.6% said the biggest thing they're looking forward to is what's most known, Strange New Worlds, Season 3. Now, I just realized that I did not include word on Starfleet Academy. I should have. I don't know how many it would have attracted in lieu of the thing right here in front of you that you know is coming and you know of. Strange New. The thing you know is coming and you're not sure about it, the Section 31. I mean, that's a spectrum. Starfleet Academy, I have no idea where that falls in between. People may be less wary of a series than a movie. They may be even less wary about movies made by people still to be announced about their Trek cred. So we'll see. But there you go. Number one answer, Strange New Worlds, of a number one focus. But number 2 and number 3 were multi-focused. So that lessens the blow. People specifically about looking forward to any other aspect, much less just being a general fan and not tying all your eggs to one basket. Was in there too. It's in there too. There you go. One more thing that I realized about opening this year, 2025, and another edition of another year for the Trek Files. Well, and Trekland Tuesdays Live. What show is this? Is something that I realized when I was checking out things here, bumping around while we were working on the wall over there. Hopefully here within the next end of the month, things will be up and perfect in the new studio here after a year of squeezing it in with everything else. I found something I hadn't unpacked yet that I meant to have here on the set that I did at the old set. It's a little enigmatic here. It's an unboxing of a different sort, but all I wanted to do was share it with you all because I'm very proud. And this is only a couple years old. The bubble wrap here. Some of you may remember it. Some of you may not have been aware. But this is, for the last 10 or 15 years, the Future Society of Central Oklahoma, which is the corporate nonprofit home of SoonerCon, back home in Oklahoma City, the con I helped start when it was a club production of Star OKC, which used to be part of Starbase, Star Trek Association for Revival, and its roots, the old original chaptered Star Trek fan club from the 70s. And this was the award I was indoctrinated. I was inducted into the Oklahoma Speculative Fiction Hall of Fame, which has about 10 or 12 other members so far, including science fiction author C.J. Sherry, Count Gregor, the Oklahoma City late night horror film host of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and only just recently retired. I was very proud of this. It was delayed a year by the pandemic, but it's had a place of honor here in the set, and I had never unpacked it. So I don't know. If you talk about 50 years, that was a highlight. I kind of got to me. We'll just put him there. And as Will Rogers said, something to the effect of when the folks back home pay you homage, that's kind of the biggest honor of all, because they know all about you and like you anyway. To that effect. I'm not being a good docent. I'm not quoting Will exactly. But that's it. That's it. I don't know. Hopefully a little education here just to know what my mail list people induced to actually reply to the poll were thinking there, self-motivated. But there you go, for what it's worth. So if you're leaving me now on YouTube, don't forget to leave a comment below, would you please, though? And I'm going to hang on here with the live folks. But as we leave you this week, just please, 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 please enjoy your 2025. Just try to carry where you've been with you as you face what's going to be a crazy world in Trek. A big shift here with gaps. We're not fallow. We've got more Trek on the horizon. We've got all kinds of interesting twists and turns. If there's going to be a live sitcom of Star Trek, I trust no one better than Tawny Newsome to get it to us. That's on the horizon too. So it's going to be interesting times, interesting year coming. Whatever's doing, if I see you on the convention trail, starting in real life in just a couple of weeks at Star Trek San Francisco, the Creation Regional Con that's back for a second try, or virtually here in a couple of weeks, especially in the digs of in about 10 days, weekend after next here at Trek Talks 4. Both of those happening. And then, of course, Trek Vegas and SoonerCon and San Diego Comic-Con and more to come. And in just another month and a half at Star Trek The Cruise Voyage 8. I'm so thrilled to be a guest there. So big year here and some other surprises. You want to be listening to the show next week. Something fun is happening with the Trek Files. The Trek Files will be back next week. I'm just saying, gang. Yep. Leaving you now. Did I mention Trek Files? I think I did. Boom. Yes, back for season 13. You want to catch it with our home at thetrekfiles.com, which is a Memory Alpha page with all the links. It's there. And yeah, it's time. Once these winds die down and the snow thaws, or maybe not, in LA, it'll be perfect. That's the time to come take a SoCal. Real Star Trek locations, planned Trek on a Trekland Trek. That's it. Best of all, though, are these folks. This is the new edition. I need some new color ink. New folks for Patreon. So I want to thank all of my Patreon, which we just call the TTL Club, the Trekland Tuesdays Live Club. Thank you so much. And it's been growing, you can tell. Thanks to Chuck A., James Kerwin, Diana Hopkins, Halbjörn Gunn Johnson, Lawrence Todd, Justin Weir is newly jumped aboard. Thank you, Justin. Mitch Keith, another one of our recents. Andrew Jasimski, Josh Patton, Pranakasha Productions, Chris Jiggins, Keith Rombach, and Comedy Forecast. And then our live wires. Jesse just jumped down there. Crusher Convo. Greg Wickstrom, Robert McLean, Byron Bailey, J.R. Poole, Gary Williams, James Durovich, Dave Gregory, Dan Leckie, and Casey Shafsky. Want to thank all of them so much. It's still a simple Patreon of $5 and $10 a month for the shout outs. $10. I know. I owe you an update on your interviews from the early years of Portal 47. Backstage creative interviews, of course. What else would it be in Portal 47? No, that's all that. Wow, new year. I should have updated my signs. These are classics. These are going to be in the Smithsonian. But it's Larry Nemechek on Twitter and Blue Sky. And, of course, YouTube. Like and subscribe right now. Hey, it's Larry Nemechek's Trekland on Facebook and Instagram especially. Portal47.net. You can read all about Portal 47 there. That's going to do it, gang. Again, like and subscribe. Leave a comment here on YouTube if you're still watching there. And it's winter. It's the buggy season. So please stay healthy. Do all the things. And stay woke. And I mean by that, stay awake. The fake news is out there. Please check the sources. You can't trust what's on social. The accounts I'm talking about, the bots and trolls, before you get enraged, check the profile and see if they have more than 7 followers and they've been on that platform longer than, 2 months. Yeah. Just, basically, trek well, everybody. will see you next week. Okay, let's barrel along. I sure needed that today. It's good to see everybody. We will back scroll. So yeah, happy 2025, everybody. Chuck A and Joel, yay, and Red Shirt Bob. I know you've been with me before on Tuesdays, and it's Dave. And I think you're talking about anniversaries here, not your Trek anniversary, right? And Melanie, yes, not an atypical story. You, in your case, were well. I had a year or so of being a naive waif, just watching a show before I realized there was a greater world out there. Yeah. We all come our different ways, don't we, Melanie? Yes. Hey, Michael. Yeah, we're kind of contemporaries, Michael. Yep. You have to say that all of those same items, yeah, changed the course of my life and career too, I would say. Of course, back then I didn't have a life and career, but it was like it became one of the guardrails, I guess you could say. I had enough weird. Now I'd say nerdy. Back then it was just like, oh, I have so many hobbies and interests. We have so much better vocabulary of terms to deal with stuff now. It goes way beyond just retcon and world building. Those words didn't exist in the 80s, much less the 70s. Hey, Narda's with us from the Outback. Yes, indeedy. Good to see. I mean, come on, guys. It's a new year. Hey, May. Just doing the call outs. There you go. There you go, Bob. Yep. That's kind of a path. I remember thinking, oh my God, they planned all this. That was my reaction to making a Star Trek. Oh my God, they planned all this. Although it was more like, oh my God, they planned all this. But to hear them talk about the believability factor, it was because sci-fi was so taken for granted, not taken for granted, it was ignored. It wasn't taken seriously. It was bug-eyed monsters and screaming damsels and all of that. Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon. And Gene said, we've got to be serious, not just serious in our acting and our writing, but the universe cannot be stupid. It can't be sloppy. Yeah, you might hire a science expert, a science consultant for the pilot, but you've got to do it week after week too. It can't just be start out of the gate that way, or you wind up with something like Lost in Space. Yeah. Hey, Sean, thank you for all those thoughts. That's funny, Joel. Yeah, Chekhov came off with did a better monkey than David, because it was Davy Jones's actual hair, though. That was the thing. Walters got there eventually. It just took a few wig weeks. Hey. Yeah, John X, like so many others. So many folks talk about the blueprints and the tech manual, but for a chunk of the world, it was making a Star Trek. I remember that we were on vacation in Colorado at the YMCA of the Rockies camp with a wildlife camp. My mom's boss, Dr. Norman, was a big wig in the National Wildlife Federation then. And there was a whole outdoors 2 weeks family. It wasn't a camp because we were all living in the dorm rooms, the rentable rooms, but it was a facility space, and there were like, I don't know, 8 or 9, 4 or 5 tracks of programming happening all day, morning and afternoon sessions. And at the gift shop, at the big sprawly gift shop, is where I found The Making of Star Trek and Starlog #1, a year apart. Yep. Because, The Making of Star Trek's episode guide in the back only has the first 2 seasons. So maddening. So maddening. But Dave, you got your chronology there pretty much. Yeah, I think you just said what I said. Star Trek Lives and David Gerrold's books. Yep. Hey, Ma Bellone, Maybell One. I never know how to say your handle name, but good to see you two here. Okay, so I've got everybody like old, being nostalgic. Okay. I don't know. Well, yeah, Plushie's back there too. He's still in the cup. Hey, Scott. Thank you. And guys, give it up for Scott, who's helped me just multiply. Scott and Kyle both multiply what I'm able to do here. Yeah. It's totally fine that you didn't become addicted to it. This is, I didn't mean for this to be the old folks' home, Scott. It's okay. And yeah, Star Trek became your family and you connected. Yeah, well, it's a little lonely there in the outback, isn't it, Narda? Carbon copies of Librarian Q's, the Dr. Trek files. Yeah, there we go. That should be something I do. That's funny. I'll credit you for that, Christoph. I got to get some things done first, okay? That's a good line. Is Star Trek real? Yes, we have warp drive. But those transporters are so expensive. Only the rich people have transporters. Yeah. Have you been there since premiere night? Since the original Star Trek day? Is that what you're saying here? No YouTube. Sorry about that, Zahir. Sorry about that. Yeah. Otherwise, why keep score? Melanie. Exactly. Oh, yes. Well, I was talking about cassette tapes of interviews, but oh, yes, I have my box. I've shared the photo that I keep handy. Someday I'll get it out live. I only had the box of tapes. Our local station, would cut the voiceover or they would cut the teaser. They'd cut the opening. They just start with the, yeah. And then you have cuts for commercials that would take out bits. And I would track what my recordings had, and always so I could look and say, oh, this might be a better one. I'm traveling. I'll have a different station. College was such a revelation because Channel 8 in Tulsa, the superstation, was on our cable in college, and they didn't cut off the teasers. I finally saw the teasers 3-4 years later. It's such a, to think about it, people just sit and plunk down and watch their Netflix, much less have the Blu-rays. But even just the fact that, why would they cut anything? Yeah. It's just, it's the, what's the platform we're on? Well, you and whose army can quote original series. Yeah. When you only had 79 shows for 20 years, it kind of happened. Although, I lost the first 10 of those. Wasn't there that intense for all of that. There we go. Oh, Christoph, in Men in Black, Kay complained to have to buy the Beatles' White Album again. I lost how many discs I bought with Star Trek: The Motionless Picture DVD Director's Cut, BR 4K, and Blu-ray 4K Remastered. Yeah, I know, but you gotta have it. Plus, you can wait for the sales. Did you run out and buy it like that day, Christoph? With all that EU value added and all that, yeah. Yeah, Narda, I didn't know how to. I wasn't looking for congratulations or I mean that means a lot more to me than something for that. But it was like I feel like I should say something or see if I could come up with something profound. I don't think I did a great job, but maybe it was fun to revisit some of that stuff. I just think the best thing, the best gift is just having a perspective to weather some of the, the shit storms of the week that pop up. It's kind of like, come on, I've seen worse. I've seen crazier. This will calm down. This too shall pass. Be happy for this, because there may be 11 years when you have nothing. Yeah, nothing new. And then be happy for modern media that you can clutch in your little hands. Right? Over there. Yeah. And you don't have to depend on local stations and commercials and all that. Yeah, I did the same thing. I hung my cassette recorder mic over the knob in front of the speaker, the speaker. Yeah, it's not exactly the best times for merch. Do you notice why I had that on that reaction? I said, please, please. Ooh, yeah, the original White Album in excellent condition. You live? How far out did you live? You couldn't even get a club together. And hey, that was, don't feel bad. That was most of that was, I had to drive, 30 miles to get, I had to wait till I had a driver's license and then a car to drive. Senior year, end of senior year, before I could drive 30 miles to Oklahoma City to find a club that had 10 members. So yeah, I feel you. Absolutely, absolutely. Comb the desert. Yeah, Tim's a good one. Tim's a good one. Absolutely, absolutely. The profound reactions come next Tuesday, not today. Did I miss something, Joel? I don't know. Hey, Diana, Happy New Year to you too. Yeah. Not exactly sure what to think about this. Well, you've seen, I've gone blank on his name, got to get the cast down, talking about he's trying to forewarn that he thinks the tone and the feel might not. And I don't think it's what people are expecting. I started to watch last night on my screener, and I hate screeners because there's the audio, you just can't enjoy the full glory. And with Star Trek, you don't want your first impression to be less than. But I decided I couldn't get it was too late. And I wanted to stop and start and stop and start and stop and start the way I always do as a screener. But I think I don't know. Why do I get this vibe? It's gonna feel like a DCU TV movie. And I don't mean that in any other. I'm just talking about it's dark. It's Section 31. It's gonna be dark, and a little out there, a little pushing the envelope in some ways. Maybe not what people are expecting, like the evil, the lack of morals and ethics. I don't think that's it. I think it's the tone of just the vibe. And of course, we got to say Happy New Year to Rose. I know at the time we were planning to have Trek Files back on the 8th. We've had a couple of snags, and some of it is something the news we're going to bring with it. But yeah, now it's the not the 8th. It should have been the 7th anyway. And then the 14th. So next week, everybody, next week for the Trek Files. There you go, Melanie. All the above. All the above. Well, you guys are just open-minded and open-hearted. There you go. Boom. It's just Bob. It's just the year's pilot. This is when 09 came out, and I was trying to analyze am I just being an old codger here or what? And I finally realized it's just the math. It's just the numbers. The longer you've known something, the more familiar you are with it. When it's brand new, you want to enjoy it or not, but it can't tug at your heartstrings the way something you've known for 20 years or 30 or 40, right? Hey, Dan, am I looking forward to the Section 31 TV movie? I'm looking forward to everything. Eventually, I will look at my visceral reaction and I will look at my intellectual reaction, sentimental reaction, but I'm looking forward to everything. There were 11 years when we had nothing to look forward to, small screen. And I held my breath with the movies. So there you go. See, John, I think there's a lot of obscure like there's the big flashy stuff and people think of that, but there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of spin-off merch out there. We ain't found shit. Thank you, Tim. Yep. Well, apparently, Dan, like you're in the big club. Of course, I mean, I'm looking forward to Strange New too, of course, obviously. I don't know. I hope they don't get into this race of thinking they have to top, they got so much acclaim for the musical and for the crossover. I hope they don't feel like they have to, they're going to kill themselves. It's going to be sophomoritis or something, or senioritis or whatever. But that's truly, boom. I think obviously reflecting that. Yeah. There you go, Ian. Well, you're in that crossover group then, I guess, which is hard to quantify. It's hard to make people quantify. Even they don't know what their feelings are. So yeah. I missed what you're agreeing with, or you can't agree with that. Yeah. Well, again, you're not alone, Scout. And thanks for stopping by. If this is a first time. This is what I finally came to peace with. The Kelvinverse movies kept Star Trek alive, at least in the eyes of the mundane world, and that's important. And when I say the mundane world, I've always said the bean counters and the Hollywood suits. The fact that Star Trek was not a dead franchise. It was out there and happening. And we could sit back here and pick over it, but the fact that it was out there and looking vibrant was huge. And at the same time, yes, it did bring an awful lot of fans to the universe. And you have to be grateful for that. Yeah. Thank you, Rose, for the enthusiastic welcome there and share. Yay. Well, Melanie, everybody's waiting to see to get it. They're all cleverly set to have stories. There's dangling threads in there if you want to look at it. Some things set up. Oh, please, let's keep them in their time. Can we just let the 32nd century folks have this 32nd century? Yeah. So again, Ian, what's actually happened with Kelvin Star Trek 4? Here it's happening, and then it's all quiet, and Zoe Dawn's sprint. Yeah. Well, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's definitely lesser than the Origins movie, which apparently is on the slate moving forward with pre-production starting anytime now. Probably locked away in a vault of secrecy until things start to sneak out, planned and unplanned. But the Kelvin finale movie is definitely out there. It's just, again, a lot of this is because of the Paramount upheaval corporately and who's pulling the strings. And this has a lot to do. The movies are still directly under the movie division. Apparently, Kurtzman's not negotiating to be the next Rick Berman as to having TV and movies under one roof. So it's interesting because they hired a movie writer, but then that never went anywhere. All that turnaround of movie writers was mostly people in the studio wing of things. So the motion picture division. So there you go. Open-minded as always, John. All the above. Ask me twice and get 4.7 answers. I know. See, it's the limitations of polling. We couldn't do ranked choice runoff votings or anything. Which is what I just said. So thank you, John, for being in there moderating. Well, Dan, I'm sure that's a huge thing, whether that's people's number one. If they're, you know what, I think the people that this would be their number one are the people who said they're just looking forward to fandom and conventions or toys and merch. They're like, yeah, I'll just bide my time. Maybe, which, that would be, that would be, uh, 11%. That would be a healthy chunk still for their one and only, I guess is what you're saying. Didn't Zoe Zaldana our Kelvin Hur, of course, didn't she just win a Golden Globe? I'm not sure that helps with Kelvin Hur, makes it less likely. She might get a higher paycheck for being in it. Wait, I had it backwards? I did? I didn't have it backwards. Here, I'll even... There. Boom. See? Now, can I tell you a funny story? It was embarrassing, not for me, but for them. When they gave me this originally said speculative friction. I felt so bad, but they got it fixed. Everybody was like, how did we not see that? I thought it was kind of funny. I could have said we could just scrape off the R, but no, they wanted to do it. They wanted to do another one. So that's very good company. I'm very tickled and honored for that. Yeah. I don't get it, Joel. In Dr. Trek Inated. Nice shard. Yeah. And we're glad you made it back, Mom. Hanging with the Live Folks PSA needle. Thank you for diversifying things. Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing, Scout. I'm willing to give anything a try. But you're absolutely right. It's not. It's what got me was how they're talking about it, and it hasn't been ordered. That is so not the cut and dried playbook. We don't talk about what's not green lit. We might play that with, especially with series. Movies get played around with that all the time. But yeah. That's what puzzled everybody when we first heard about it at Comic-Con last year. People were like, is this a joke? Is this a really bad skit that went wrong? No one's laughing. It was the weirdest announcement ever. Well, I will see you there, Joel. I will see you there. Hey, Carl. Good to see you here again. I miss coming up to Salt Lake. They've changed. My friend that was our Blake is not there doing guests anymore, and we'll see. I've had other things to do also. And then see, after Big Bang Theory, It Crowd, Red Dwarf, Trek porn. It's time for an original Trek comedy. Someday we're going to do a show on this, but Majel Barrett Roddenberry pitched a Lwaxana Troy sitcom at one point. Yes. I mean, not just a line. I mean, they had a pitch packet with a cast and a format. That's going to see the light of the day, hopefully sometime this coming year as a Trek file. And I keep wanting to see what guest I can have to talk about it. Dan, I am barely on Threads. I did Threads because Instagram keeps throwing you over there. So yeah, I'm on Threads. Blue Sky is that. Absolutely, William. It's going to be a weird but interesting year. And I mean, in many ways. I hope we can limit it to just interesting and not damaging. Hey, why do a chat or discussion about Section 31 the 25th? I'm sure we will have some reactions and things. Yes, indeedy. Hey, PM, if you're just getting here, always good to see you. Yeah, I know. I said Janet watches so many home decor shows. I said my little announcement on Twitter. I said I'm going over to the Data's theme song site, so join me over there. But yeah, I think it's funny for Truck World for the thing to be called Blue Sky. William, you're asking if we have huge high winds. We've got winds gusting to 60 and even in LA to 100. There's some power out. I believe it may be back on. I hope it is, but I believe that some notable places in North Hollywood and Studio City, which is over the hill from the basin on the valley side, but right along the 101, there's power out there. Melanie, you grew up in Eureka, California. Yep. Behind the redwood curtain. It's a little bit better now about being that way, right? Wow, Sean, I much prefer your January 6th celebrating to the January 6th that's branded in my brain now. That's funny. I'd never heard of that, though. I'd never heard of that. There's not another name for it besides the date. Hey, PM. Well, it's nothing they prepared you for in high school or college. Maybe ridiculed. It's just you have to. Well, it's a case of following a passion, and then at some point you say, in a very. It sounds a little crass, but at some point you say, I do all this for fun, and you do it for pleasure. But at some point you say, in the real world, I either have to find a way to monetize this or I have to pull back and then go with the thing that does. Or they're fighting, right? It's like people have a side hustle on their day job. When does the day job or the sidebar, when can it take over for the day job? In a lot of worlds, it's easy. Like when the writers and actors come out and they wait tables, or they're a courier, but the whole time they're going to auditions or they're writing spec scripts. And then comes that time when I remember Ron Moore telling me when, what was it? When they bought his script and then he came on staff and he didn't have to sleep on Narain Shankar's sofa anymore, his old buddy. I mean, like people come to LA and crash and, give it the year or two and they have a plan and all of that, or they have their job. And then when the day things happen, and that happened to me when, in my case, it was when the Next Generation Companion, even in Oklahoma, sold so well, because part of it was TNG and part of it was a first paradigm of the new era. I was very blessed and lucky that when it sold so well, we said it was getting harder to not pursue things, and it was getting harder to do my day job at the paper. And it was hard to live in Oklahoma with our head bumping on the ceiling versus even with the higher cost of living and bringing kids. It was quite a challenge back then. So what you do is you just enjoy your thing, or you have specific goals of channels. How do you channel that passion? And then at some point, if you feel hungry enough about it, or you feel like it's fighting with the rest of your life, you say, well, what am I going to do? And if it's fighting because other people are noticing you, if it's fighting because you're spending time and not getting any traction back, that might be a sign, or it might just be a sign you hadn't been able to go, full bore yet. So at some point you give yourself a safety net to go full bore and see what happens. Or there's times you can do, it's increasingly with socials and YouTube and desktop publishing, even self-publishing. People put out their self-published. That's how a lot of people did. A lot of people did self-published books. Well, I did mine. I still can't grab them. We're still not unpacked enough where I can grab them. But if you had hold the phone. If you had your self-published work, then you can put it out there. It can be a calling card. It's just like a spec script, only it's a spec book. And if you don't mind spending a lot of time on it, because you're going to do it anyway, and then you can show it, or other people see it and they come to you, or other people see it, they come to you and they want something like it, only different. And that's where the companion came from. And then after that, it became the inertia. It still is still a transition, but that's it. And then I tell you what, it almost feels like the bar. It's easier to put yourself. People can YouTube, people can podcast now. It's much easier than it was way back then because everything was limited to a book. Occasionally, people would be a speaker and make a break, not in Trek, but be a breakthrough that way. But a lot of it was still what you knew and who you knew, and not like you'd get privileges, but like, did you have accessible information to share in a world that wasn't set up for conduits of information? Well, now we've got information 24/7. But it's basically when you get to the point when you know enough, and that's fighting with the rest of your life, and other people are taking an interest on some degree. And don't think I'm wallowing though here. And I mean, it's not like expert is an industry. It is for some people, and it depends on the. Sports is a highly financed thing. Political punditry is a highly financed thing. But that's basically it. And I didn't think it was a mocking question at all. And hi, James. Oh, see, I didn't think about you being an Aussie too, but there you go. Do you know Minarda? Yeah, being weird was the norm in Australia. Yeah. There you go. Yes, Stan. Yes. It's been so delayed, I hated to point to. I was thinking about official canon Trek, but then by the time I put toys and merchant, yada, yada, yada. That's true. That's true. I guess I was trying to find the number one thing for everybody and then make some allowances to have combined answers. So there we go. Hi, Chris. Good to have you back with us this year. Wait, this is your first time to be with us on TTL? See, I know YouTube world, I have to say my stream, which to me feels like I'm going out and looking at a mountain brook. No, it's a show. It's a show. It's a show. It's a one-camera show. But thanks for being here, Chris. It's good to have you with us. May, can I say what panels? I can't because it's still in the middle of being decided. And the one thing that I could say is I can't get ahead of the announcement. Although if you were there last year, one thing's going to be repeated. With me and a cohort that have done it before. How about that? Oh, really? Okay, I'll have to hear about this. Magazine as in Dead Tree Media on paper? That's interesting. Oh, Sean, I'm like out now. I'm out I'm a county adjacent to LA. However, our Will Rogers family out in the Palisades has been in touch, and I haven't looked to see what the latest is. There's a wildfire on the west side of the Palisades on the border with Malibu, and they're evacuating houses. It's on the opposite side of Will's, toward the ocean. And if it actually threatened Will's, that mean it would have been burning through some canyons and or some really high-end, huge homes, high-dollar homes. So there are people on mandatory evacuations. I've heard that. But as far as breaking news, we're cloudy today. It's windy here. I bet if I looked out my window, I'd see gray looking out that direction. But anyway, yeah, Chris, I was thinking you'd been here before, but glad to have you. Absolutely, absolutely. Mike, make sure to subscribe and share around, okay? Mm-mm-mm. Oh, hey, Jesse. Hello back at you, and congrats on some of the shows lately. Yes. Yeah, it adds up, Scott. It adds up. Yep, yep. As you should. Absolutely. Oh, okay. You were born a few decades too early. I believe it. We're living in a world shift that way. Of course, it's messing with the actuarial timetables and financial underpinnings, but there you go. Wow, Sliders is doing its 30th anniversary too. Talk about Jerry O'Connell there. Well, how many consultants, how many experts are out there talking about it? See, part of it's just like, what's the market for I mean, there's obviously there's a fandom for sliders still. It just can't I don't want to say compete with Star Trek. It's not a competition, but there's just that. And so if there's money in something, that's part of that's just the numbers game. Is there enough inherent money there that somebody would pay something for something at some level? And if it's all going to be avocational, that may all be anything gets. And sometimes you might have been an expert in something that was fun. You might be the world's, I don't know, Barbie or G.I. Joe expert. And for 20 or 30 years, nobody cared. And then suddenly the nostalgia wave kicks in and somebody's made a G.I. movie or a Barbie movie. And then suddenly you're in demand and to go on mainstream, so that's part of it. But now, if you're going to go with your passion, you don't care about that. You just go, and some things blow up, and some things never do. They stay tiny and dinky, and that's fun too. So it's not like you can sit back and go, "Okay, I'm going to plan what I'm going to be excited about as a kid and a teenager, so that in 30 and 40 years, it's going to blow up and be big, and there'll be money in it." It's like, how do you predict that? How do you do that? Yeah, me too. But you know what happened? My mom worked for a doctor, and he would get these audioscope, and he would get these like lectures and talks on tapes, and he never listened to them, so she would bring them home to me, and I would erase them and tape over them, and then just put new labels on the tapes. Oh, the memories, things we did. Absolutely. Absolutely, and absolutely. You get commercials that way too. Mm-hmm. Well, Scott, you're just so lucky. But you'd see the stills in the books and magazines. I go, what is that from? And then I finally saw that. I'm like, oh, that's from this. Oh, that's from this. And so many of the little factoids. There was so much exposition in the teaser, like, now orbiting Sigma Iota, and it's not in the rest of the episode. And the Concordance Beach would be full of that stuff. And I go, okay. Finally realized that it was a factoid from the teaser. Wow, Chris, is this for the first time? For the first time? In many ways, I envy you. It's got to be amazing. Yeah, congratulations, congratulations on doing it. But I envy you for being a first timer there. New eyes, and Ranger Donnie is here with us. Yay again. Stone knives and bearskins. One of the great all-time phrases to use. Yep, yep. That and you're about to make a medical comment, Jim? And it's a big universe, Mr. Scott. Oh, it's a big galaxy. It's a big galaxy, Mr. Scott. Have you done that yet? It's a big galaxy, Mr. Scott. Yeah. Oh, I had my entire collection of home recorded bleeping out commercials in the moment, expert forehead VCR taped, clean pauses, not even bumpers, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, that I painstakingly, but I had the best archive when things blew up in the 90s and we moved. I had better take, because everybody else would, at the most, people were dealing with their own commercial VHS tapes, and you had to, you had to get, or people had their home records, so you had to get to the commercials to get the stuff, and it was just, and I had pristine, I didn't cheap out, I had pristine slow records. I was much in demand as a resource person, in part just because I could find answers fast, and then I could clear, and we did baby frame grabs, Polaroids off of those, and it was better than a lot of not. Yes, I'll take that and run with it. PM, thank you much. Yep, a lot of us did that too. A little bit, not as much as my Trek recording. LA, live long and prosper. What? Lappies? The LL and P awards are coming up, I'm sure, again at some point. I'm losing your threads. That's okay. Okay, yeah, I hated to say that because I didn't want people's minds to go there. You know, if I was getting a preemptive, too early an idea there. Oh, Chris, what's your new channel? Make sure and let us know. Got to come in here and promote a little bit. That's what having a silent chat's good to do that. Oh my gosh, you have screeners for the lost BBC audio plays from 2011, but the BBC doesn't contact them to offer it all back. Oh, well, good luck. These are not, great. It feels like there's more tools for people to cobble some money coming in on something. Yeah, we'll see. John X. That's what I said. I'm curious to see. I'm curious to see how it is. Oh, I guess you just did, Chris. TNG fanatic. Oh, that's Chuck A. Yeah, you got to give us the name, man. Same year the last Mission Impossible movie comes out. Okay, another optimistic vote here for Section 31. Cool. Section 31, you're thinking of the Department of Temporal Investigation, the DTI, that Mulder and Scully were from. Sculder and Mully? No, the anagram agents, right, from Tribulations. Well, this is my hope. This would be my hope. Well, this is a very broad-minded view, PM. So, yes, good on you. Hi, Liebchen, and I am very much with you. But I predicted this. They're going to have to let what's on the runway play out before there are slots. We're not in a 5-series universe anymore. That's not where streaming is. That's not the financial picture. It's going to be 2, maybe 3. And you have 2 series and some TV movies. No one has said a word about. Assume that Lower Decks and Prodigy go away. No one has said a word about we've got to have another animated series of some kind. Well, this is what I think we all do until the multiverse takes over. That might be a crutch, or it might be a godsend. I'm waiting to see. And hey, Robert, good to see you. Thank you for being a Patreon too. Oh my goodness. What am I most excited about for 2025 in the Trek world? Well, look at you, Miss Host, taking over my show. Wow. I don't think I don't have any one look forward to, but I've got 1 or 2 or 3. Do I call them pressure points? I am so hoping the Origins movie is worthwhile and adds something. I'm so hopeful that it lifts us and isn't something we have to drag around and explain. Oh, I'm sorry. This is my pet rock, the movie that I'm stuck with now forever. No, I'm hoping that flies well. If nothing, at least the way that Beyond went into canon and actually carved, just kind of like bone on bone, but it kind of carved a thing that totally fit and stretched a little bit of what we assumed a little bit. That's fine. It's fine to assume. It's been happening ever since Motion Picture and Wrath of Khan. But I want the Origins movie to do well. And I want Strange New Worlds to keep enjoying its laurels, but not to get fat and sassy and not to just keep throwing TOS people at us. I have a feeling they're going to throw McCoy at us in some capacity that fits for the timing. But just like there's billions of other people inhabiting this universe. Can we meet some of them? I'm just silly. Yeah. And I'm just curious to see the reaction to Section 31 and whether or not people say, oh, let's do that again as another movie. Or, okay, now the next movie we're going to try to do, and just see what the future of the format is, as well as the future of that format. So, yeah, I've got curiosity points more than look forward tos. And, and that includes Prodigy Season 3 and Lower Decks and Tawny's sitcom. I've just got a lot of expectancy points, I guess, more than I'm looking forward to it. And just so much stuff is in flux right now. I'm just looking forward to seeing how Skydance does with their Star Trek stewardship and what their priorities become, and who, if anybody, they hook up with new, besides JJ and Alex. This is true, but you can look forward to the idea. Matron. Yeah, I told a little story there on the SoonerCon folks, but it's okay. What is the Prodigy there? That is the press kit for season 2. Yeah. If you ever watch Cadet Alice, and I've got episodes I need to start posting. It's going to take us a while to get through season 2 because I don't get to see her as often. But if you see a Cadet Alice episode, and there's no Prodigy merch in the beginning. There's barely any now. The action figures have come and gone. But when she was littler, she had the cup, and the first time we did it, she kind of like flew the cup by. We didn't have a model or a ship or anything. But there was a Janeway Prodigy cup that was in that coffee mug cup that was in that PR kit. a lot of press stuff, and then some doodads, some swag. And one of the coolest swags was it's right here. There, see, and we had nothing to show on camera, just to play with. And Alice kind of went. She flew the cup by, and so that became our thing. And that little clip, we have that now to end the shows with. So another inside story. Woohoo! Well, it would have been fun, or it might have been fun, or it might have been, it might have been a grimace. I don't, depends on how it was executed, of course. And we're talking in the 80s, so it would have been, think 80s sitcom. Teased hair. Yeah. Okay, how are we doing? Oh my God, guys. Everybody's wanting to, I look at this scroll here. I'm going to, covert agencies generally don't follow anybody's but their own rules, and they keep those rules a secret. Just saying, NSA, CIA, and all those other alphabet people. Yeah, S31. Don't think the world was ready for a Troy's Mother sitcom. Oh, really? Not a fan of Loxana, huh? Skip it every time. What? Well, I'm waiting to have the right guest for it. See, gang, can I just say that there's things that still need to evolve with Trek Files, but promotion-wise, one of them is having the audience being able to talk to each other. But the other thing is, nobody ever mentions the guests. That's like the bar with me. We don't just, I love the world full of podcasts, including my own, otherwise. But the Trek Files has got to have a relevant person from the industry or the Trek family. Not just my friend who lives down the street who had a Kirk shirt when he was 14. What do you mean he wasn't a likable guy? He was a scalawag, especially after the second one. If they'd gone forward, they were rounding Harry Mudd's corners off the more he went along. Yeah. He was a scalawag. In fact, that got the point where it's like, why did they not just use Harry on triples instead of having Cyrano Jones? Because they needed the unfamiliarity factor at the beginning, I guess you might say. Oh, that's awesome, Chuck. That's good to know. I'll take that news for Jesse and tell everybody. Okay, everybody. Okay, Dan. We're seeing the things. Yeah, everybody's preferences are coming through here. Sadly, yes. An elemental force, is that like a big boulder that sits there? Big rock? Well, thank you, John. I think I appreciate that. We don't need no stinking badges. Oh, see, Sean, I didn't know. The day we took the Christmas stuff down was usually when we got around to it by the end of January, and we were too ashamed. No, not when I was kid and had parents in charge. I'm talking about my life. It's like, I can't take time to take it down now. Yeah, the short treks. You knew, you know. It's been your headcanon that they did replace Will Riker with Thomas Riker. Read your Next Generation Companion, everybody, and you'll know that. That was a published story in 1996. Or 1994, excuse me. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Cool. Hey, Chris, what do I think of the chance of Legacy being made? Well, there's a huge impetus for it. It's not going to get made until a slot opens up, maybe, and that may be 2 or 3 years. And here's the thing: by that time, Terry Metalis may be free of his commitment over here. I mean, Michelle and Jerry are still going to be, as far as I know, are still going to be just fine and vital in 3 years. They will all say, "Oh, we're all getting older," but they all look great. And the characters have evolved where they're not fashion plates. That's not part of it. I mean, they look great and they're attractive, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like they have to look 20 anymore and now they're 30, or they have to look 30 and now they're, and I'm not, and please, I'm not, don't, yes, I know casting and trashing and female expectation, but it's the same thing with men. It's just the aging thing. Are you going to suit the story? Well, the story already suits them and they're so fit anyway. And then all the kids are going to be just fine. Who wouldn't jump at the chance? Who wouldn't jump at the chance to be on a Star Trek again? So I think there's been enough push for it, and now the world could change. Paramount's leadership could change. The streaming world could blow up in 3 years or 4 years, and the world could blow up in 3. No, but there's no hard and fast. Oh, it'll, it's waiting. There's a contract to wait its time, and when 3 years are up, we'll start on it. That it's weird that even happened with Strange New Worlds getting, with Section 31 getting bumped as a series and putting it on the tarmac next in line for takeoff. But again, there were only maybe 2 and 3 variables at the time in Trek, so it was a simpler universe of things to juggle, and now it's not. And now the greater world is rearing its ugly head too, aside from just what internally Star Trek wants to do. I think there's a chance. If you mean what are the galactic odds, considering everything, a 25% chance. But I'm saying that because we don't know what all those intangibles will be looking like in 3 years. But it won't happen sooner than that. I could be shocked. I could be totally wrong. But my best guess, from what I know, is it's what I've been saying ever since the Legacy campaign. They're going to run with unless Starfleet Academy blows up on the launching pad or soon after. And it depends on how long Strange New is renewed for. And it depends on whether they build out, if Section 31 is a hit as a series and they let Michelle Yeoh go do movies and it's launched without her. It's launched so that she can go away and the rest of the cast takes it on and runs with it. The Section 31 team, dum, 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 dum. Oh, Jesus Christ, Dan. I hope that they don't look at very short treks and think that's some big barometer for reaction for animation. That was just misguided. You take big swings, you take risks. And, people enjoyed it's like the longer those went along, I think most people enjoyed them. I think the last one, with the musical one, was cute and didn't, make everybody, it wasn't like poking your eye out with a nail, hammering a fork in your ear. Don't think that was, so I don't know. Wow. Okay, Chuck. We'll see you at Vegas then. Yay. Well, again, PM, right now, you would know better than I do, but what's the demand for a Sliders consultant in this? Who's wanting Sliders content? I hate using the word content, but who's wanting Sliders shows and podcasts? And then, is there Sliders? Are there novelizations even? Do they still novelize new stories? Is there any, there's not, it's not like it's a tech world where you've got ships and props and uniforms. That's all not a factor here. So I don't know. But you would know the Sliders world. It's just a matter of seeing if there's any money. It's based on the size of the audience. That's just the hard and fast thing to begin with. If you're looking at that. Yes, Rose, you have my permission. I've been meaning to check. I thought the cage was shot before the first because I thought I missed it. I thought they wrapped, I should say. I know they were shooting in December. The Wrath of Life Support Live coming to STSF. I've said nothing. uh, okay, guys, this is wow. Um, I like the meme of Spock with a raised eyebrow talking about sports fans wearing team colors and screaming at the TV, and that's acceptable. Yes, fans. This was my point. This was the turning point when the geeks started to win the war 10, 15 years ago, turn of the century. I started saying this. There's no difference between, it's all good. If it shouldn't be we have to compare them and fight them. It's like they're all, yes, everybody should be entitled to have their passion and wear their tribe's thing, and that shows their passion, and get excited about it. Better that than a world of zombies who care nothing about nothing. Oh gosh, Donnie, don't miss Oklahoma, Texas. I miss thunderstorms. And the way the climate crisis is evolving, we may have everybody's weather everywhere. So it may not be so localized. Well, Sean, this is the idea, but you got to remember, you say they. Who's they? That corporation that keeps turning over and shifting? I mean, believe me, the people who have been there for a while all want to do the most they can, the furthest ahead, the coolest for the fans. But they may not be the one who are empowered to make big decisions, and they may be dealing with all kinds of colleagues who they're having to train or don't get it, or they're getting up to speed. So it's not like a cast of characters been sitting around since the 50th anniversary going, okay, now in 10 years, here's what we're going to do. There's some like that, thankfully, like our friends John Van Sitters and Marion, but it's a big corporation, Mr. Scott. See how that works? Oh yeah, it's Voyager's 30th anniversary too, which is the cruise's big highlight. There's lots of people there, not just Voyager, but it's the theme of the big highlight theme of the cruise. It's why Kate is the honorary captain of the cruise this year. Oh yeah, well everything was more expensive in the UK, right? Yeah. Well, there you go. See, Robert, you're building up the audience there for PM. Yep. Yeah, I'm missing the setup here. Unless it's something I said. Reel-to-reel tapes, and since that was coming up. Yes, one of the redeeming reasons for January 20th to live in your memory. Another one. Mm-hmm. I think you're talking about the Lappy Awards, right? Which I've done the after show for the last 2 years, co-hosted it. I didn't realize the context at the beginning. Oh, Dan, that one I showed you was self-published. That's how I got on the radar. Yeah, desktop publishing. Laser writers and yeah. It's typeset, not just typewritten, but typeset. That's thank you, Dulmer and Luxley. I just went brain dead for a minute in the moment. But oh yes, self-publishing. You betcha. But gang, the Star Trek Franz Joseph Schnabel's Star Trek blueprints were self-published as well. He did a limited edition for con in San Diego, not Comic-Con, because it was predated Comic-Con. Yes. Oh, here you go. Chris, congratulations. The Transporter Room just launched, interviewing Trek fans to find out what got them into Trek and how it played a part in their life and stuff. Very nice. You've got your own niche staked out. And you can always have celebrity Trek. I mean, when you grow it enough, you can start sneaking in celebrities who are also, secret or not so secret Trek fans. There's a whole list of them out there. So yay, good on you. Good luck with that. Narda, we don't want you dying of your battery death in the outback there. Take care. What is the skinny on a Strange New Worlds movie? I don't think there is any. There might be some brainchild in the back of Akiva and Alex and maybe even Henry's brain, but I don't know. They're just worried about having another season after this season. And because it's the future of, what is the future of this TV movies anyway? Unless you're talking about jumping it to a big screen, and that's even more a muddled gray mess right now. So, no, I have no idea what you mean, Jesse, by the interviewer in your. Well, I never, you know how many times I'm being interviewed and I turn around and ask the interviewer something, not as a gotcha, but just like I just go there. Or I'm having I'm lunch conversation with somebody and it turns, and I say, oh, well, sorry, there's the interview's now started. Hello, Exponents 2046. Oh, well, hi, Exponents. Is this your first time with us on a Tuesday? I don't know. But good to see. But it's fine. When you're 5, how immersed can you be? Could you read when you were 5? It's amazing though that you have your first Trek memory when you were 5. That's I envy that so much. But it's hard to be immersed when you're. I was saying it was hard to be immersed because I couldn't drive or have a car yet. So, and heaven forbid we had the internet then. Nope, not at all. The Vulcan Science Directorate. Oh, screw the Vulcan Science Directorate. Yep. Oh, yeah, PM. Absolutely. Well, they're licensed. So licensing got handed down. It was a corporate thing. We're going to do this now. We can't have them in conflict with something on screen. But, 20 years ago, it was like, well, we'll never go back to these people again. So they think a dead series is ripe for expansion. People still want to hear about the characters, situations, and no one's going to have any competition from being on screen. And then suddenly there is competition. And it's not just that Picard revisited TNG. It's that all these shows are having legacy characters come in. And it's like, well, what's been done? So, yeah, it's hard to keep up with. Are you kidding me? Think about doing novels when TNG got popular and they sold, and you were stuck with being an author of a TNG novel and tried to map out something with one of the characters that could still be contradicted in a year or 2 or 3. Just even having titles of books that wound up being titles of episodes and being a huge confusion factor. That happened. I'm trying to think what was Ishariyar's episode, Tasha's sister. I think there was a novel name for that 2 years earlier. One of the first TNG novels had that. Oh, thank you, Dan. Well, that's part science nerd and part I was there and part being very, very close to all that. So yay. I'm glad I did something that blew somebody away in a good way. In a good way. No, it's not that soon. It's spring-ish or summer, maybe. No, January 24th is Strange New Worlds. I mean, it is. Did I say that? Strange. It's Section 31's movie is January 24th. Very true. Very true. Nobody wants to call the Vulcans dumb and limited, do we? No. Thank you, Narda. We reach, sister. Oh, John. Legacy. Series 1%, spin-off 5%. What do you mean by spin-off versus series? TV movie 40%. There's that. There's that. Hey, I just got my RT Generation companion book. RT Generation? Right Generation? I'm sorry, aggressively relaxing. Good to see you, especially if this is your first time here. Okay, well, I will bear this in mind. We'll see if we want to do a live reaction show or something. Oh, Exponent. I watched It's My World and Welcome to It too. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. That's awesome. I love William Wyndham. I love Commodore Decker. I was a kid. Do the math. I was a kid when My World and Welcome to It came on, but I knew it was James Thurber. I didn't know James Thurber, but I knew it was based on something. And it was also the first time when they won the Emmy after they got canceled. It was my first time to know that good shows don't award-winning shows doesn't equal financially successful shows, or people are watching. The critics can love something that's canceled. That was my first, and watching it through TV Guide and watching the reading about it every week. That was my first experience in knowing how that dynamic played out in the industry. But there we go. We reach, brother, also. Well, looks like you've got ideas and you've got a plan, and that will be awesome. Look forward to seeing it. And thanks for coming in and letting everybody know about it. Well, yeah. Or like the Betazoid trio a little bit that we just saw on Lower Decks, except they don't have the nefarious Loxana, wouldn't have the underground mission, I don't think. Wait, what? If Larry gets Majel Barrett on this podcast, you're inquiring about Robin Williams. Yeah, in a multiverse, the multiverse version, where they're both still with us. There you go, Chris. Very fun. Very fun. There you go. There you go. I mean, run it all the way. Remember to like and love and hit the tap. Thank you, Rose. Thank you. Yeah. Mm-mm-mm. Golden Trek girls. Yep. Wait. Oh, hey. Oh, Aaron, it's so good to see you there, man. It's been ages since we've actually talked, aside from a text exchange. Now, what? You would have your doubts if it would be called Legacy because they don't normally just let random showrunners name things that going through marketing. Oh, well, okay. There's been some really lame names. It makes sense, though. They reserve things really early, and then it may be 4 years before they get around to it. I remember because that would leak. Oh, look, Star Trek : this Prodigy has been 5 years before it's not 5 years, but there we go. This is what I said. Yes. Academy not till 2026, but it'll be 20 episodes back to back. Literally everyone who had something to do with Trek said it would be bad. That was 100% marketing. VSTs. Oh. I Oh, he's only just now doing that. I need to ping him. It was, he was my open house guest for Portal 47's open house a year ago, the 2023, and we talked about what was up with that. And he was saying, no, it's happening. We had lunch before that, and he said he had a Paramount executive lunched with him and talking about happening. There you go, PM. Aaron would watch a Sliders redo. Okay, everybody. Well, the main viewer is only in an hour and 20 minutes, so there you go. I'm just the warm-up act for main viewer now. Chris, absolutely. I talked to Dan talks about his, and Jesse talks about Crusher Convo, so absolutely. And other people, I mean, we don't want to get carried away, but especially when it's a new and it's a launch and people are excited. Sure thing. Well, PM, again, I'm telling you, there were people who had lots of things planned and wanting to push with it, but you need, at some point, you need budget and yada, yada, yada. You need corporate support. The people that know stuff could know the stuff that should be happening as long as you can, but you're stymied by real world limitations, unfortunately. And it's almost like you almost hope for that, because if it's too hot, then you have 15,000 fingers in the soup. Fingers in the soup. Okay. Everybody, gosh, guys, how are we going somewhere so fast? Okay, Melanie, SNW, what's the Vulcan Gang trailer about? I don't know, Chris. Christoph. I'm looking. Yeah, it was. She's wondering when I'm going to get off also. I guess we had a lot of hungry people after the New Year's. Is that what's going on here? You all just hung on my words there, talking about traipsing through fandom again. There's pendulum swings. Why? I try to. Hey, today is Gene L. Coon's birthday. He's been 101. Yes. Might have been. Why, yes, Dan, it's just a talent of mine. Oh. Oh, you always want some Will Rogers. I need to get prepared on this. I don't know. We said last year that things can't go on like this, and they didn't. They got worse. How about that? Will also said, it's great to be great, but it's greater to be human. Spock might disagree with that, though, but there you go. Okay, PM. Voyager 312, one of your favorite Voyager episodes, Distant Origin and Displaced. All right. Yeah, it's sometimes that becomes an issue. Talk to the Galaxy Quest guys. Yeah. Okay, everybody. Look, that was an extended time, a great way to kick off 2025. Thanks for indulging me there on wanting to mark a year like that somehow. That probably wasn't the most profound way to do it, but it was fun anyway. I got to get back to a lot of work going on here. And but thanks so much for joining me here on another Tuesday. Oh boy, a year ahead. So much stuff happening. And again, I think I'm as looking forward to the pivot points this year as I am to specific things. So we will see what happens with all of our favorites and with just the tunes and attitude and where the hell this landscape is going to settle out corporately, media-wise, all of that. So once again, though, I do want to give a big shout out and a big thanks to my TTL club. Yay. Let me do this. Boom. So there we go. Yes, everybody. Thank you so much for being in that. Everybody else, you can be too. Thank you for the support. It's $5 or $10 a month or more. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. They do it at the end of the month if you're not familiar with Patreon. For the shout out and the live wires, get access to the first generation of Portal 47 backstage interviews. The Trek Files, once again, is going to be back for season 13 next week with a little bit of news along with it. Can't wait for that and to tell you who our guest will be. We will see. Thank you so much for that. At trekfiles.com is the Memory Alpha page now. We also have still the Facebook. But get geared up. We're doing some more with community this year. Everybody listens to the Trek Files and they don't know who they are. And of course, the treklandtreks.com. Hopefully we won't all be in a snowy, windy mess, and it will be beautiful here in SoCal and perfect, even in the death of winter elsewhere, to take your customized away mission that I help you design and I help lead you to it for a day. Or we could do 2 days, different stops. You know where to find me, everybody. It's Larry Nemechek on Twitter, on Blue Sky, and also the YouTube channel. Like and subscribe us here while you are. Hey, I've got Cameo, and I've got our TeePublic shop is there too with all the gear. I appreciate your support there too. The virtual visual. It's Larry's Trekland on Facebook, on Instagram, and yeah, YouTube. Portal47.net is where to find out about Portal 47. You hear us talking about it so much too. It is your backstage pass to Star Trek's, well, it's everything to insider Star Trek, right? It's all the bits about Star Trek you had no idea about. And mining, most of all behind the scenes background people. So that's going to do it for us, gang. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Again, stay tuned in the next week and in the next couple of months. There's going to be some big news coming out of some wonderful things coming out of Trekland, some new stuff. But meantime, if you're headed to Star Trek San Francisco, I'll see you there end of the month. 10 days, I'll see you for at least one panel on Trek Talks 4. So much happening. If you're cruising, we'll see you on the cruise at the end of February. Can't wait for that. That'll be a watershed moment here. And just looking forward to, on the surface, on the planning board, this should be a really good Trek year for the human factor. Hopefully it'll all match up on the screen as well. And while you're doing that, and liking and subscribing, please stay well. Do all the things. Stay woke, check the sources, and yeah, Trek well, everybody.